when we started to create our business together was the first time actually that I could really feel that we can co-create, and it feels effortless.
Because, us, we coming from Hungary, and we eat meat with meat.
And Lilla, were your ex-partners all pranayama teachers and presidents?
No. No, definitely not.
Great that you're watching or listening to the Momoyoga Community Chats. We hope that you enjoy our conversations. If you like what we do, make sure to subscribe to our channel and like our episodes. Namaste.
Hi, welcome to today's community chat. So we're here with Lilla and Peter from our Yoga Mind in Mallorca. So thank you so much for being here today. Perhaps to begin with, if you want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about our Yoga Mind, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan, for having the opportunity that we are here in this chat. And basically our journey as our Yoga Mind and also as yoga teacher started 6 years ago. And this was 2 years after we moved here to the island of Mallorca. We are originally from Hungary, and we met in London, actually. So from London, we escaped here to experience a bit more slow living and change our lifestyle. And this is actually which took us on the journey of yoga. And after 2 years of practicing, we decided to go to India. And from India, we came back and we decided to start to teach here on the island of Mallorca. And our mission was originally, after obviously experiencing India and the traditional teachings, to really spread more about the whole aspect of yoga. So not only of the physical practice, but also of breathing and meditation. So the goal was mainly that we're going to create transformational experiences for people within any of these topics and mindful yoga experiences. And nature was a big inspiration for us always. So we take out as many possibilities as possible to bring it out, the classes, to nature. And therefore, at the beginning, we started to teach only at the beach, which is obviously always a really uplifting experience in the morning to connect with nature, seeing the sun coming up and experiencing a little bit more quiet space also. And then after a couple of years, as we were teaching, we started to focus more on retreats. And now in the past year especially, we are sharing more our wisdom in a private retreat setting mainly. And that means that we're hosting people in our home. And this is more in the middle of the island, also very nature-based, but more closer to the mountains and not that much around the sea. But it's really a big part of our work here that we're bringing people here in order that they can step out from their busy life and they really just silence their mind and connect a little bit more truly within themselves.
Wow. Okay. Lots of very wonderful things said there. Peter, do you have anything that you want to add to that? It's already a wonderful concept, but
yeah, I think she described everything. But it's everything started with a move to Mallorca, and then from Mallorca, we decided to go to India, have that experience. We stayed in Rishikesh. This is where we did our teacher training, and we stayed in the ashram. So when we said that it changed everything, the lifestyle, this was the first time ever in our life then we experienced being vegetarians, because us, we coming from Hungary, and we eat meat with meat. And this misconception when people say meat is for a man and all these kind of things, it just didn't mean anything anymore as soon as I left Hungary. And I actually felt that I needed change, as I always been a personal trainer. And always push my heart and then just try to do more and then stronger and harder. I quickly went to the state where I felt a little bit burned out. And also I didn't feel that I do a good work anymore, because I was pretty stiff in my body as well, but in my mind too. So this whole experience in India helped us to slow down and take it easier, listen to our body. And actually the first time in my life after my childhood, I started to feel very connected to my body and to start feeling the internal organs I have. I felt different parts I never even know that there is there, or we should feel it, or we should have a sensation of it. So yeah, it was a good step and a very, very important step in terms to change our lifestyle. And then what we experienced there in just 1 month, it was a really big wow and aha. And we were like, okay, so how we can integrate that when we're going back to Mallorca, how we could share all these experiences. And obviously it doesn't come through just a single asana practice with a vinyasa or with all kind of physical. So it's a much deeper journey, and it's a philosophy actually what you tap into this, and it's kind of like a consciousness. You need to tap into it because it's there always, we're just not aware of that. How we speak, what do we say, and
Yeah. So did you guys, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, so you went to India together, is that correct, for the yoga teacher training, and you made the decision to do that together? How was that? Because I've done a yoga teacher training, and I think the experience of not being with anybody that I knew was an important aspect of that for me to really kind of fly off into my own little world. But did that enrich the experience, would you say, together, or how was that?
I think absolutely enriched it, and we started to have like this a lot of ideas how we could work together, make a living out of it as well, and then just keep improving and help each other, because we all have ups and downs. And I think in this case it's an easier job to be with next to somebody who can help you out of these difficulties. And it went on back and forth, so I think it was a great idea. And as we were learning from our teachers from India, they were always saying that if you have a bigger class, it's always hard to have the attention on everybody. So we kind of like created this style that it did really depending on the group. So if they are very beginners, of course we are showing still and all things, but we try to always split the class that until one of us is leading, the other is going around, and if it's needed, we apply hands-on adjustments. So we are assisting in poses. So this was basically the first insight what we want to do, that we want to share these experiences on the way how we actually dreamed it or thought that it's gonna be, and it's still going on well. So this is how we work together. So we usually split the class. If I start with pranayama practices because I work as a breath coach as well online. So one-on-one, I have a course, and yeah, we're just going into the nervous system. And also what we were learning in India, it wasn't always clear why do we do it, and how we should do it, and when we should do it. And what I completed that breath coach training, then the whole picture got together. And as I know the science of it and all the backed up things and phases and the vagus nerves and then the nervous system, that created a whole concept in my head what I should and how should I teach.
So it was like a moment where you realized like the pranayama mixed with other elements was the right thing for you. Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Absolutely. And if you did the teacher training, that that in this 200 hours or 300 hours of teacher training, there's so you can really just spoon feed yourself a little bit. You cannot really go into one topic because you're not going to have knowledge about the other things. So it's kind of like you go into a little bit of everything. So if we went into Kapalbhati, we went into Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, and so many breathing techniques. But there was always a question: why do I want to do this right now in the morning, and why do I want to do the other one in the evening, and why do I want to do that in the daytime? And I never had the answers for that. So for that, the science gave me the answers, to slow the breath rate down per minutes, or to change the ratio of the breath. The ratio is the difference in between the inhalation and exhalation, and breath holds on the top of the in or on the bottom of the exhalation. So these whole things, why do we use Ujjayi breath? Why the CO2 is so important, and we're not focusing on the oxygen, because we know that if we have healthy lungs and we are healthy, our oxygen level is always about 95 to 100. So we need to focus more about the CO2, because the CO2 is a vasodilator, and therefore we can absorb much more oxygen, what we saturated, for example, on the Kapalbhati or on the Bastrika bellows breathing. So just so many answers came, and there was a aha moment, and okay, so this is why. And then, yeah, so now the approach we share, it's a holistic, so we combining that with all the philosophy, with the science, and also which comes from India.
It's actually funny that you mentioned about all of the different aspects that you learn in the yoga teacher training, because as I was I looked at your website, it was beautiful, by the way. I was like, these guys are doing like everything that I would want to do, basically, because you have the mix, obviously, of, I think you're a psychologist, Lilla, but also mixed with personal trainer, pranayama, yoga. There were so many different things. And also, I think you have your retreats, but you're also in person, online. I was very impressed, to say the least, at how you had so much experience, but also how you were able to juggle that on a frequent basis. So would you say that you, for example, Peter, do you prioritize pranayama? Lilla, do you prioritize being a psychologist? Can you find that balance with everything where you can do it all at the same time and still feel that you're doing the very best for that practice, I suppose?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when we lead retreats, for example, but even on a regular class, I think that's the good addition, that you get the perspective of two teachers, obviously, in one session or in one class. And you have unique skills and different experience, like you mentioned. So that was actually one of our idea when we decided that we're going to create the brand together and we're going to start to teach together, that we want to bring both of our aspect into the classes, and definitely it's quite different, but at the same time also we live a life together with really similar routines or lifestyle changes what we made. So of course we have a common interest also, and we have a common view on many things, but still our past experiences or the approach, there is like slight differences. So definitely I would say Peter's knowledge around the breath and generally about pranayamas and all that is really his key unique point. And I love pranayamas and I also teach, but I have to say that his knowledge around the science of the breath is even more deeper, and he used it very well on the classes to introduce that to people. And my perspective, or what I really like to share, it's of course influenced by my studies as a psychologist and that holistic way of healing, which is more about energetic aspects also of yoga or of alignment, and listening more towards inwards, finding the deeper connections through physical practices or somatic exercises. So this is, for me, what works the best, obviously within my own routine, and also when I work with clients, especially in one-on-one, I can really see the results. So of course, even when I teach like a bigger retreat or on a yoga class, then I like to share also, obviously, what is inspiring my work, and that's more oriented towards holistic psychology also.
So it's actually quite new for me to hear about holistic psychology, because obviously it's very science-based. But is it still the notion of using talking as a therapy, or is it completely different?
It's different. I still use, of course, talking therapy, but it's more practice-based. So,
Okay.
my biggest concern after I finished my studies, my master's in psychology, was that I just really felt like this tool is amazing, that we understand, how childhood or past experiences influencing our present self. But on the other side, I didn't feel that it's powerful enough that you go for a therapy session once a week and then you go home, and oftentimes people, they go back to the same setting or same routine, whatever they were stuck in. And that's why I talk therapy is great, but is not enough. And therefore, people need more practices which they can do on a daily basis, they can really integrate, and that will bring the breakthroughs more easily or more quickly. Because sometimes with therapy, you stay with your therapist for 1, 2, 3 years, and the change is still not really happening that quickly. So for me, combining this together and bringing more practices into my work, it really helps, and I see the results that is much faster. So the transformation can happen much more easily, and it's also that just teaching people to kind of empower themselves. So, sometimes when you are in a therapy setting, you kind of outsource your power to the therapist, or people are expecting that the therapist will fix me. And that's unfortunately, again, not really working in long term. So it's more of, people that they have the power in that they can really heal and they can be their own healer, but they just don't have the tools maybe. So it's more about that practical way of educating and then practicing that, how they can awaken that inner healer inside, and that will help them and lead them towards well-being.
Okay, fantastic. It's a wonderful approach. I think it's also, yeah, I understand what you mean about, I think you can also overthink everything, or see the mind as the main tool. I kind of say it like everybody's just carrying around like a head, but they forget this whole part of their body. And it sounds like you're trying to integrate this part of the person, of the psyche, but also this whole part as well, to try and get it moving and get the stagnating energy flowing and that type of thing. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I use sometimes breath work also, or somatic exercises and movement. I also have a background as a dancer, so sometimes more it's intuitive movement which I use, and I think it's super important because especially if we talk about trauma, and oftentimes I work with people who had trauma from their childhood. However, I do believe all of us has a certain of trauma through our lifetime. It's just the way how we cope with it is different, and how it gets stored at the end. And usually the trauma gets stored in the body and in the nervous system. So we need to really do something about it to shift the state and to come out from the free state or from the fight or flight. And therefore, you can only learn that if you know how your body works, and if you really tune into it, how you can move the energy. So that's why it's quite a big part of my work. And it's completely changed also the way how I relate to clients, because now I rather believe in mentoring. Means that I'm kind of walking the same journey with my client, but I'm not superior, or I'm not an authority. I'm just having a lot of experience, which I blended together. But at the same time, I also share about my own struggles sometimes when I feel that it's helping people, because in the classic psychological setting, you can never share about your own experiences or your own life. Exactly. And that's also, I see that it sometimes distance people from the therapist, which of course ethically can be good, but still the transformation happens a little bit more slowly, or it's not happening like so easily, because they feel like the therapist is someone right here, and maybe I cannot reach to their heart or what they went through. So then it's difficult. And with the mentoring approach, I share with integrity what I went through or what is my own experience, and that helps people to open up more also sometimes.
And empowering them.
Yeah, definitely empowering. But I mean, I could open up the conversation forever because then I'm like, yeah, but you have to protect yourself as well. And how can you protect yourself as a teacher? And also I saw you guys do retreats, and you mentioned earlier, I think within your home. So you're really opening up your heart, your home to people. So do you combine, for example, people who have trauma? Do they come to you first, let's say, and then come to Peter for continuous pranayama practices, or and yeah, how do you carry that together? There's too many questions. Okay, let's reverse. Do you do the retreat together where it's more focused on one person between the two of you and really exploring every form of healing together for that person?
Yes, exactly. Usually, yeah, both of us are present for the full program when we lead retreats. And even if it's just one person, both of our attention is there. And again, it's mainly the reason why we choose to work on this way, because we believe that both of our stories and both of our expertise and experience can add something, to the person's perspective and transformation.
It's incredibly complete. I don't think I've ever seen a retreat that is so, it ticks all the boxes. Or normally you would have to have, I don't know, like 10 different teachers intervening with one person does this part of yoga, one person does this. So yeah, I have to say kudos to you both for, for succeeding in doing that. So what do you have coming up at the moment from a retreat or event perspective?
So we have the private retreat as an all year round program, so people can book throughout any time of the year. And we like to emphasize that because Mallorca is known kind of like a summer holiday island, but actually we do believe it's like more of a all year round location, because the winter is also really beautiful here, and the temperature is still much warmer than in most of the European countries. So, in
In the Netherlands.
yeah, for sure.
It's warm.
And less rain, definitely. Of course, can be the winter sometimes cold in terms that, like a storm comes or wind, and then it can be some days when it's not sunny. But when it's sunny, actually, it can be daytime, even 20 degrees still, which is amazing. So it's really good for hiking also. There are beautiful routes in the middle of the island, like close where we live also, to discover nature. So definitely, like winter time is perfect also for retreat, and the island is much less busy, so actually it's more calmer, and the atmosphere is also nicer in our opinion, because to be honest, we prefer the winter season. Due to the fact that the summer can be very overwhelming, lots of tourism, and everywhere you go it's crowded, lots of traffic on the roads and
noise.
Noise.
And when she said that it's calmer, it also means that the beaches are cleaner, and by that I mean that there is no sunbeds or umbrellas, so it's clean. It's like more natural, and then less boats, so the animal life it's coming back closer to the shore, so you can see dolphins jumping out, for example, from our yoga spot where we teach. And yeah, that's why we like to say that it's cleaner and calmer, because it's absolutely less tourist and less crowded stuff. In this term, I mean the sunbeds and umbrellas. And
So do you find that in the summer it's like a completely different type of person who comes to your retreats than the winter? And would you say that you have to then approach it differently, because obviously everybody's like Mallorca in the summer, and maybe they don't have the same perception of your retreat as someone who'll go that extra mile in the winter to come to Mallorca, perhaps? Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I would say there is different type of audience who wants to come later, because they are usually, I think, the people who are ready to go more inward and really to do self-reflection and slow down even more and, you know, just enjoy the quiet time, because possibly where they live or how their everyday is like really busy and, you know, too much, too stressed. And therefore, you know, they want to disconnect completely. In the summer, yeah, it's more like, you know, people having that lighter sensation. The days are very long, and of course, it's still enjoyable, the summer, and especially in our home, it's really chilled and relaxed. But of course, we see that people have more interest towards, you know, going out or more like going towards entertainment. But generally, I think whenever someone comes here, our program is very clear that it's more about like really connecting with nature and with love. And we also do a digital usually through the retreat. So that's quite a big part of it, that we offer the option that whoever participate, they can use their phone like for 2 hours a day. Or they can decide that they completely gonna disconnect, and we have a box, and then we collect the phone, and then only for the 2 hours when they can use it if they would like to. But many times also, you know, people, they realize like they don't want to check at all, because they really understand that this is for themselves. So it's actually beneficial if they disconnect from the online world.
That's so interesting. I've never actually heard about how people implement rules in their retreats, but how do people respond to that? Or are they, obviously they must understand why, but does anybody resist or go against that? Or have you had anybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was some case when you could see the surprise faces, like, do you think you're gonna take my phone? And it's not like give me your phone and we're gonna put in a box because we are the teachers. No, it's more of an offer, you know, because we know that the phones are disrupting us. We need the phones right now. I know it's easier to talk with family and doing bank transfers and booking classes and whatever you use, but it takes the majority of your time per the day that you are using a lot. And actually, even the ones who, they never really resisted, like, I don't want to give the phone. Maybe some of them, you know, when they are too much in a head yet in the first days, then they, but I have a business online. Yeah, we know, we understand that. That's why we offer, you know, the 1 hour or 2 hours per day if you want. But I think 95% of the time, the people doesn't even want to use their phone after the day 2. Because they realize they don't, is actually really just a distraction, you know, to use them for the day. Because what we do, it's a somatic work, so it's a deeper work. So it's kind of like, you know, you start working with yourself in many cases, what you didn't realize in the past months, years, decades, that you disconnected from yourself, from your intuition, and from your loved ones or from your pets, for example. So it's a great way. What we see that after most of the times, after the day 2, they don't even want to use their phone.
Like, what advice would you give to if anybody is watching this and thinking, okay, I would like to do this? Or similarly, for example, I can imagine what you said about maybe going out for distractions. I don't know if they want to go to the bar or clubbing or whatever, which isn't going to be super constructive for the type of retreat that you guys are doing. What's the best approach? Like a little paper when people arrive that you hand over, or just forewarning before the retreat, would you say? Is that the best way to do it?
When we're working with people on a private setting, always starting with the discovery call, where we actually kind of like, we're doing a roadmap, what is going to happen, and there are the workshops, then people can already choose what they're interested in, and then it's not completely new. So it's not like you step into our house and then it's a cold water in the neck that, okay, now we're going to do that, no coffee, no alcohol, no weed, no that. So it's pretty much you know, well prepared slowly.
Okay.
So we actually tell them try not to drink coffee for a couple of days before, because we know that heavy coffee drinkers can have headaches as well for a couple of days after stopping, and then this is kind of like a mental preparation.
Mm. How, so because you said it's all year round, like how much time do you leave between one group, for example, and another group, and what is the maximum number of people that you have per group every time?
So in our home, we take maximum 4 people, so
Okay.
it's a small group. However, we also have some cases when it's like a group of friends. There are more of them, and they want to have a retreat for themselves, like 10 people, let's say. And we are also able to organize that, but then we don't do it at our home, but we rent another place on the island.
Okay.
Or when we offering once a month or maximum twice a month, a 1 day or half-day retreats. Obviously, the people are not sleeping here, so we can host comfortably 12 people.
Okay, great to know. But then it's just the two of you still for the 12, like you're not able to host that many people.
Yeah, but if we're renting a bigger finca for example 12 to 14 people, then we also inviting guest teachers.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
we
because
like
I'm always thinking you do so much that you need to look after yourself, obviously, as well. So it's ensuring that you hold that space whilst also always looking after your own cup and filling your own cup, basically. So
yeah,
I think
it's
that's
really
where I'm coming from. It's like, are you okay?
really important.
Yeah. Also, like the workload with the retreats can be really different. So sometimes, we have once in a month, and then after we don't have for like 1 month at all. And on this way, it's kind of balanced. So we can always like schedule how we would like. So usually, people requesting the dates, and we look into our calendar, and then we can. I mean, so far we didn't have the case like we had completely no, but we try to find always the timing or the dates which is like good for us also, and not just always thinking from the other side, because we do other work, as you could see, like online also, and we still teach regular classes, so we try to juggle around the different duties, but somehow always the life is bringing the right opportunities. So we are kind of working in a flow usually, and we just really follow whatever is coming in front of us, and we decide if it's aligned or not.
Mm. It
It's
sounds like you're on your mission, like you're aligned with your mission, at least.
Yes.
yeah, exactly. And it's never really 100% how you want the things, but what you ready for. And sometimes, okay, now we would like to have couples because we're running these couple retreats, and they are very close to our heart. And we are okay. Now we're gonna have a couples, and we don't see couples for half year. So we have different opportunity. The universe says, okay, now your ego wants the couples, but you're not gonna get couples, so you're gonna get different kind of work. So then we have different, opportunities to do it. And at the moment, we're really enjoying that. We do many things, and sometimes from these many things, we only doing one thing for like a couple of months, and then we don't see that thing for another half year, because then different things comes up, and we are very good with that. We serve ourselves, and we go with we trust that the universe is always gives us what we need and not what we want.
That's so interesting, though. It's like, so for example, do you think what makes you have something at that moment in time and not have the thing? I understand about obviously the universe kind of makes those decisions for you, but is it also just trends of the moment based on what's happening and why there's no couples, for example? Or is it seasonal, or is it just that you want it too much, maybe, and that's why it's not happening?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of many things, but definitely I would say there are also trends, which, always, and it's the world is like really fast paced, so also the trends are changing sometimes, very fast, that we can see that even on our regular like beach yoga classes, sometimes we have suddenly 20 people, and then next week we need to cancel the class because it's like 2 people. So especially I think here on the island, it's really difficult to predict in long term what's going to happen, because also kind of with the island there is this mood, like just live in the moment, and therefore you cannot really expect people to decide so much in long term in advance, because everyone is traveling and going back and home, and it's kind of really unpredictable. I think generally the island vibe, I would say, because we see this with other events also on the island, that it happens quite often, that sometimes it's like a lots of people, and then next month is like nobody, and it's not really depending on the season, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, that does make sense. I can imagine as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but like you said earlier, in the summer that people drop out a lot of class because they want to spend time outside, and then suddenly you have an influx of people in January. I mean, at Momo we see trends all the time as well, that towards September there's this major increase in yoga teachers as well, and I think in January as well we see it. But then in the summer, obviously, it kind of goes down, where people are just like, I want to go on holiday, I want to lie on the beach and read my book. So in Mallorca, I can imagine it's even more sensitive to those movements. So, but does that make it difficult for you to, like you said, that you can't really plan? Is that difficult for you, or is that okay? Like you just accept it for what it is?
I think we kind of accept it, because the moment we moved here, we seen that, okay, this is if you have an appointment at 2 o'clock, you're never gonna get at 2 o'clock there. You're still gonna sit there at 3 o'clock, 3:30, and try to complain. So it's we needed to loosen up, and we needed to let go certain things in terms to create space and be more resistant, And this is how we try to function, because really in Spain it's a different thing, and then in between Spain and the Balearic Mallorca, it's a funny and unpredictable island.
I've never been to Mallorca, but now I'm like, I really want to go and just discover this unique place. If I come, I will let you know, of course.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Definitely. Although I feel like the idea of everything that you do, I have to be really prepared to go within and to discover everything.
No phone.
No alcohol, no phone.
But what we see actually in the island, we live here how many years? 8 years.
8.
We live here 8 years, and when we came here, everybody just wanted to get wasted and stuff, and see that in these years already there have been a lot of change. So people are really want to invest themselves, to go for a retreat, go for a workshop, and organizing more mindful events than just to go out and get drunk in a pub, because you can do that at home. You don't need to come to Mallorca to find the same British pub, for example, and have the same pints what you're getting in the UK. And I know, because I'm coming from the same. I did the same. When I went for holiday, I always got wasted because I deserve, but I went home more tired and more exhausted.
Yeah.
So this we try to change in, and not just us, but in the collective here in Mallorca. And what we see, that the change is really coming and going. So when I see the change, there are a couple of party places here in Mallorca which they really want to get rid of.
Yeah.
So bad reputation of a couple of places. I don't want to say names, but what we see, that the council is even changing the name of that beach, because that name has a history, and people can connect with the old parties and with the old substances and all things. And then as they're gonna rename these beaches, and they will rebuild the hotels, they're gonna put it up more stars, so obviously it's becoming more expensive and more expensive. So I'm not sure that this is gonna be the right place for the people to come and get wasted and damage themselves and all things. We all been there. I've been there. So if somebody I've been there, trust me, it's without out of judgment. So, but what we see really, even from our older clients who are with us already for 5-6 years, they changing too. Everybody is changing. The life is about changing. That would be a problem if you don't change, I think.
And I mean, this is a whole other topic, but generationally as well, I see it where people are drinking less, or like there is a complete change in the approach of how future generations do it. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I'm observing it. I'm like, okay, there's more interest in meditation, well-being, yoga in general. So perhaps that's also just influencing how things are evolving there as well, hopefully in a good way. So
absolutely. And then, it's the collective as well. So if the younger generation start to take care of themselves and be more mindful, then it's going to work on the other part of the world, because this is life kind of like this consciousness where what we just, feel it, and they feel it as well. And for example, we had sometimes in this summer, we had a couple of guests. They were like really 20 few years old, and their mindset was already, when my mindset was on age of 32. I'm 37 now, so yeah, they're just so different. They don't smoke, they don't drink already, and when I was 22, I was just waited for the next party and the next party and the next party. So yeah, so the world is changing, I think.
yeah, that's fun. It's great to hear, to be honest. It's really good that people are able to give themselves that time and care to look after themselves. So yeah, it makes me happy at least to hear it.
Yes.
I have so many questions every time. I'm like, oh, I want to hear Peter. So you went from like party, like what took you into your whole spirituality?
Yeah. Sorry.
There's like a billion questions, and also to do with psychology, because for me that's just such an intriguing field in itself. Do you ever want to take the other person's expertise, as in Peter, have you ever wanted to study psychology from what Lilla does, or are you happy to leave her to do that?
I leave her to do that. Yeah, I think I was the one who always, I think maybe I would need psychologists when I was young and teenager. But let me tell you a funny story that she is a psychologist, and my previous 3 ex-girlfriend been also a psychologist. So I think there must be some connection, or some kind of vibration that, yeah, and this was never, planned or something, but this is how it played out.
Side. And Lilla, were your ex-partners all pranayama teachers and present?
No. No, definitely not.
Weird coincidence.
But for me, it was like when we started to create our business together, was the first time actually that I could really feel that we can co-create, and it feels effortless. So it's not like something which is forced or pushed, or I want it but he doesn't want. It was very natural, I would say, because first when we decided to go to India, it was my initiation first, and originally the plan wasn't that Peter will join also. We were thinking that he would go for another type of course.
I want to do a CrossFit course. So so still very masculine intentions I had and visions, but then I was like, okay, then I can't sit in cross-leg position. I don't know how to meditate, and I know that it would be a good. So yeah, I just listened to my intuition, and without resistance, I was just happy to join her, and then
you were right.
Yeah.
And then after, when we finished the course, I didn't think that Peter will want to teach, because obviously it was completely new to him to actually do yoga, because he didn't do before. and then I started to have the idea. Okay, I will call this concept my yoga mind.
This is the origin. Yeah, this is the origin.
My
And
yoga mind. Okay.
yeah, and then he was like, but actually I think I want to teach also, maybe we could rename our yoga mind. And then I was like, oh really? Okay, great. So if you want,
So my
That's
idea.
So from my yoga mind, it became our yoga mind.
That's actually very beautiful, I have to say. I really like that. That's lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a nice story. But I'm curious actually, that's another question that I had is, what advice would you give for people who want to work together? Like, how do you succeed in doing so and keeping that peace and that enjoyment of each other?
I think what I would give as a suggestion, that be yourself. Be yourself, be honest, be authentic, and then it's gonna work out. You're gonna attract the right clients who are gonna be organic, but definitely don't play yourself as a different person. I think the attitude of gratitude and the attitude was being a forever student is really important. So I'm still like to keep repeating myself on every single festival we teach or every single yoga retreat that I'm a forever student. Because once your cup is full, you can't feel anything in it. So the teacher said to me in India that, okay, Peter, you're coming from a personal trainer background, but whenever you come to a class, if you have a glass of water, you need to pour that out and then come in and take what you need from that class. But don't come in that you know things, because sometimes, and we see that in medicine and in many part of the world, that you need to learn to relearn things.
Are you a student of Lilla, would you say?
We are the students of
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We keep that.
Yeah, I think it's important that if you work together as a couple, you respect the other person's skills and qualities, and not feeling like one of us is better or the other. We are always feeling really equal in whatever we do by honoring each other unique sets of skills. And the other advice I would say is about communication. Like, it's really super important that you really communicate through everything. So, whenever we prepare for any class or retreat, we always communicate beforehand, like more or less what we're gonna do. And then also afterwards to kind of integrate. So on this way, we always feel, that we can share whatever is inside of us, and that makes it more easy to work together also.
And would you say, and then I'll stop with the questions, do you have to keep being a student of other people as well, in the sense attending other classes, yoga classes on the island? Do you keep doing things like that, or do you not really have the time to dedicate to that?
Of course, yeah, we do. I mean, for me, it was always like after, even we finished the yoga teacher training, we went for 2 more months to travel, and we went 1 month to Bali and 2 or 3 weeks to Thailand, and we were keep going to other teachers' yoga classes. So already from the beginning, for me, it was so important to really see how others are teaching, so that can really inspire how we teach. And if I don't like something, then I know that, okay, I don't want to teach on this way, or I don't want to share something like that. And of course, if I learn something new, then I can bring it into my own classes. And on the island also, yeah, definitely, I find it super important to go to other teachers' classes. Also, we really like to connect with other teachers in order to create more of a community feeling. And in our mind or in our heart is like no competition. We don't ever feel, that we're offering the same like someone else. So we really into collaboration always, and for this reason, from the beginning, we started to teach. We were always very open to visit other teachers' classes and get inspired or get connected. And I think this is the way forward also, that there are many yoga teachers on the island, but I think there is enough for everybody, because the need is just rising. And that's the beauty of it, that I think Mallorca is the perfect destination also for people who wants to really practice yoga and dive deeper into different way of yoga, that's the perfect place to come.
Yeah, very well said. I would say I think community is always the goal with yoga. So it's fantastic that you keep feeding that, especially on an island. I think it's probably even more important than elsewhere. So yeah, I understand. I had one final question, and then I know I keep saying that, but then this is the very last one. Would you say that our yoga mind is complete, is ready, is done, it's as you want it, or is there anything more that you want to be at that stage? Like, what's the dream?
I don't think it's ever complete, whatever project. I mean, because I'm kind of, like a visionary, so I always have like visions that what I'm dreaming of that I would like to create, and then taking steps towards it and slowly make it. And this is still, I feel that we just at the beginning of the phase, that what is the bigger picture. Of course, I feel that the past years was really needed, that we needed to have a lot of experience, because we taught like almost 3,000 classes, and
Wow.
which is a lot, yes.
That's a lot, yeah. Wow, congratulations though.
Thank you. And like meeting with lots of type of people, understanding the needs, and what is really we should focus on, and that's kind of ever changing and evolving. And definitely the bigger picture where we are heading to is we are really putting full attention to retreats, and also like bigger retreats, and also we would like to slowly start to teach also yoga teachers. At the moment we offer continuous education, in terms that we have the online program, for example, of Peter, which is also count for continuous education hours. But we would like to really create a program which is kind of blending together our experiences, and that would be, maybe a 50-hour teacher training for yoga teachers, in order to specify more about nervous system regulation.
This is the next project for this winter.
Very cool. It's a very cool project indeed.
Something you.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine also the preparation for that is immense, and trying to collaborate that with the retreats as well is a whole other story. But yeah, it sounds like very exciting projects. And also for the retreats, the idea that you might have bigger groups, like you mentioned, Peter, potentially, and more what's the word I'm looking for, people coming in with different skills and different expertise as well, perhaps in the future. It all sounds incredible, and it will all be Mallorca. There's no other destination for now.
We mainly focus,
here
yeah.
right now at this moment, and we see.
Okay. I will keep an eye out, and if I see anything happening, I'll reach out to you for another community chat for somewhere else in the future. But yeah, for now, we can stick to Mallorca. All good. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I covered many, many different topics of our yoga mind. But I would say, just on the whole, it just sounds like you're doing fantastic work. And yeah, I would be honored to come to one of your retreats, because it just sounds so complete, and just like you really have many skills that you bring to the table. So yeah, fantastic work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Megam. It was an amazing time together, and then we are very grateful to be a part of this experience.
Yes.
Fantastic.